So welcome everybody. Thanks for coming along this morning. My name is Eva. I'm joined by Elizabeth Hoban, who we both work for the Future Students Department here at University of Tasmania. And I'm also joined today by Robin Barnes, who's the course coordinator of Applied Science and Equipment Design and Technology. We've got Bridget Moreton, who's a course coordinator for the Diploma of Sustainable Living, and Mark Shelton, who is a teaching fellow and associate degree of the associate degree in equipment design and technology. So thanks everyone for joining us today. They'll be talking in a bit more detail about their certificates later on. So I'm just going to hand over now to Elizabeth.
I'm just going to do our acknowledgement to country. Today we are meeting on Lutruwita, Tasmania, Aboriginal land, sea and waterways. I acknowledge with deep respect the traditional owners of this land, the Muwinina people, which we meet today. The Muwinina people belong to the oldest continuing culture in the world. They cared and protected country for thousands of years. They knew this land, they lived on this land, and they died on these lands. I honour them. For the Muwinina people, the area around Nipaluna, Hobart, was their country, and they called Mount Wellington Kunani. I acknowledge that it is a privilege to stand on country and walk in the footsteps of those before us, beneath the mountain, among the gums and waterways that continue to run through the veins of the Tasmanian Aboriginal community. I pay my respects to elders past and present, to the many Aboriginal people that did not make elder status, and the Tasmanian Aboriginal community that continue to care for country. I recognise a history of truth which acknowledges the impacts of invasion and colonisation upon Aboriginal people, resulting in the genocide and forcible removal from their lands. Our island is deeply unique with spectacular landscapes, with our cities and towns surrounded by bushland, wilderness, mountain ranges and beaches. I stand for a future that profoundly respects and acknowledges Aboriginal perspectives, culture, language and history, and a continued effort to fight for Aboriginal justice and rights, paving the way for a strong future.
Thanks for that, Elizabeth.
Eva, yeah, so yeah.
I'm just jumping back in there. So what are the certificates? So basically these are 6-month full-time certificates, where they're designed to be taken full-time over 6 months, and they have been introduced as part of the federal government higher education package, relief package, and therefore have a subsidy of between 50 and 100% of the tuition fee. And these certificates can give you credit towards the relevant associate and bachelor degree at the University of Tasmania, or potentially you could use it for study elsewhere, depending on the university. And it's really just designed to help those who may have been affected by COVID, had their jobs affected and may want to upskill, or they may want to study to help them find a new job, or it might be just a way of dipping your toes in the water of university study and potentially completing some further study down the track. And they all begin in July 2020. Next slide, please. So we have a number of study areas. So we have nursing, education, university preparation, health, engineering, natural science and physical science, agriculture and business and management. But today we'll be talking specifically about the engineering, science and sustainable living. So I'm going to hand over now to Mark Shelton to talk about the equipment design and project management certificate. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Eva. And thank you for your time, everyone, today. I'm here just to give you a quick overview of the undergrad cert in equipment design and project management. Essentially, the way we design equipment, the type of equipment we're producing and the way that it's marketed is changing rapidly. So this course is all about using cutting edge technology like laser scanners, laser cutters, 3D printers, virtual reality, augmented reality, drones, all of those wonderful toys, to create new products, to solve problems in new and innovative ways. So this undergrad cert will give you an opportunity to get a taste of what that's like, and we go through the complete product life cycle. So you'll develop design thinking skills to design your different products to meet customer needs, and to make sure that they are exciting and that the user experience is fantastic. We'll also look obviously at the project management side of things, so you can complete these tasks on time and on budget, and look at different aspects like marketing and promotion to ensure that your product design is a real hit. We try to use hands-on experience whenever we can to give you a bit of an idea of what the course is all about. A couple of the projects that we're working on at the moment. We recently developed some face shields to support with the I suppose the gap in medical PPE equipment during the coronavirus. So we had local health authorities reach out to us to try and come up with a solution to produce some face shields for health workers really quickly. And our original designs took about 12 hours to complete a face shield. But within about 2 weeks, we got that down to about 4 minutes using completely different technology. So that was a really rewarding experience, and we had to go through, the entire design process really quickly. Another project we're working on is with the Tasmanian Police. We're developing components for their drones, so they can get those drones into different areas to to save people that might be drowning in a river, or to get a drone in to get some footage of a siege situation. So we've had to create, design and produce drone guards for the propellers, so they can get those within a few meters of people. So we're working with real clients to solve real problems, and using those pieces of equipment to fabricate in new and exciting ways. It's not about bending metal or pot rivets or welding. It's about using things like laser cutters and additive manufacturing like 3D printers to create the products of tomorrow. There's also a strong focus on sustainability as well. One of the things that our type of manufacturing enables us to do is do things in a far more sustainable way. So that, in a nutshell, is what the course is all about. So far as outcomes for graduates, a lot of our current students are looking to head down an entrepreneurial path. So we certainly support that, to start their own businesses in developing, creating products. We also have a lot of students that are looking to incorporate a lot of these skills in their existing employment. So it might help them become more valuable in the agriculture sector or aquaculture or fermentation sector. So there's a wide range of opportunities. And also the 3D CAD, the 3D digital design that you do is an employability skill, and something that's certainly sought after by industry. All of our development, the course development and the projects that we work on, wherever possible, we use real industry partners, so you get an opportunity to showcase your talents to them as well. So that, in a very short time frame, is what the undergrad cert in equipment design and project management is all about.
Great, thanks very much, Mark. Moving on to Robin to talk about our undergraduate certificate in science.
Thanks,
Robin.
And thanks everyone for joining us today. So the undergraduate certificate in science really gives a good introduction to some of the key areas in applied science industries in Tasmania. So some of the main industries that we work with are the really innovative science industries. So we've got aquaculture, but we've also got the fermentation and separation industry. And what that is, it really focuses on the food and beverage industry, so the food industry. And we're looking at those fermented products, which are your beer, wine, cheese, bread, vegetables. This certificate certainly gives you some really key skills towards working in some of those science industries. Some of the units that we've got on offer as part of the undergraduate certificate are, the first one that's a compulsory unit is called Introduction to Industry. It gives you some of the key skills that industries are looking after in their future employees, and also introduces you to a wide range of industries across the state. And then that's offered in term 3, which starts in July. And then there's a choice of 3 other units, and we've got quality management, which is like a continuous improvement. It's a really key skill that can hit across any number of industries, from equipment design to science to business. So it covers often a lot of areas on continuous improvement. The other unit you can choose in term 3 is regulatory challenges, which talks about regulation, and this one focuses on the food industry. So the regulation framework, I guess, that businesses need to work within. And then in term 4, students can choose from either a sustainability unit, which again covers off on a number of industries, but it is a really key focus in the science industries, and applied chemistry, which will give you some of those key science skills that you might be looking for if you want to go into a science-based industry. Lots of transferable skills in these. A lot of the students that are in this course and that are in the diploma and the associate degree in applied science really want to start their own business. Those studying in aquaculture want to get into the aquaculture industry, and this gives them a really good foot in the door and the opportunity to meet a lot of people within the industry. Those studying in the fermentation area, quite a few of them want to go down that entrepreneurial path and start their own microbreweries or other fermentation businesses. So some really good outcomes, and it's a really exciting time to be in that fermentation space. There's a real renewal in the fermentation industry, and people are really getting into their food. So there's lots of opportunities, not just in Tasmania, but around the country. So yeah, happy to answer any questions. One thing I will note is that we do have a HECS waiver for the applied science courses. So this undergraduate certificate is actually free.
Thanks very much, Robin. Yeah, so if anyone does have any questions for either Mark, Robin or Bridget, please start writing them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen now, so that we can answer them at the end of this session. So I'll hand over now to Bridget Morrison to talk about sustainable living.
And mute, Bridget.
There we go, I've unmuted. I couldn't find my mouse. Thanks, Eva, and thanks everybody for joining today. The undergraduate certificate in sustainable living, as it says here, is about learning practical knowledge about sustainability. The certificate has a number of objectives, and that's reflected in the wide range of units that you can select from. So there's one compulsory unit, which is the Intro to Sustainability Literacy, and then there are 10 other units that you can choose from. And there are really two threads there. One thread is really about enhancing or giving students the opportunity to enhance their own lived experience of sustainability. And the other thread is really a deeper dive into the theory and philosophies around sustainability. That might be a more job-ready approach. So if you jump in and have a look at the available units, you'll see that there are a few around things like the science of gardening and backyard biodiversity, and those units are definitely there to provide students with the capacity to understand more about how to contribute to that goal of sustainable living. And there are other units in there, such as developing your creative and entrepreneurial potential and engaging with sustainability, which is going to give you a better understanding about how you might be able to apply those broader concepts into your workplace. And so, yeah, there's lots of opportunities there to explore. I think that really this certificate will give you an opportunity to demonstrate to potential employers your capacity to upskill in the sustainability area. And certainly, you know, businesses, this is a rapidly moving necessity for business and industry, not just because they feel that they have to, but because it just makes really good business sense to be sustainable. And secondly, I think that it really demonstrates to your current employer, if you're already employed, that you have a special interest in this area. If you think about, for example, how we've had first aid officers in the workplace for around a decade now. Every workplace has to have a first aid officer. Well, nowadays, a lot of businesses will have a sustainability officer, the person who's responsible for having some oversight and responsibility for helping a business or an organisation be more sustainable. So these are the kind of things that this certificate may contribute.
Great, thank you very much, Bridget. That was thank you to all of you for talking through those. So on to the administrative side. So how to apply? You can apply online via our e-application portal. The links are on the website on the main page for job ready certificates, where a lot of you will have registered today. Next slide, please. Okay, scholarships. So obviously all of these certificates have varying levels of scholarship, and you don't need to apply separately. This is all automatically applied if you are a domestic student and you apply for this certificate in semester 2. So so there's no box that you need to tick. It's all automatic. And then HEX Help. So for the certificates that have a fee, you just need to, you will be able to defer that fee with a HEX Help loan if you are an Australian citizen. And you just need to complete the ECAF form, which demonstrates that you are eligible for the, and also the HEX Help form loan. HEX Help form for the loan, and yeah, that's really just to demonstrate that you meet the criteria for a Commonwealth supported place and for the loan as well. All right, so we're on to questions now. So Elizabeth is going to manage the questions. I'll hand over to you.
Not a problem. So we've had one come through so far, and please keep putting your questions into either the chat box or the question and answer, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. Dan has asked, I've sent my application in already. Do you know how long before applications are processed? I believe that they're processing them in, like, that's why they've asked for them to come in now. It may take anywhere from like a week to 3 weeks, I think, roughly. Is that right, Eva? If I'm not mistaken about that?
Yeah, that would be usually how long admissions would take. It just depends on how many applications they've got at the time.
Yeah, they get in at once. So yeah, that's the only question so far, but please send through some questions if you have them. Oh, here we go. So from Julie, what practical components are in the Cert and Diploma of Sustainable Living? Might hand over to...
Oh, that's a really good question. So the introductory unit, which is compulsory in the certificate and also in the diploma, is called Introduction to Sustainability Literacy. It's a really important unit because it provides students with the skills to be able to evaluate an enormous amount of information that's out there about sustainability. As you know, sustainability is a highly contested space. There are so many different opinions and ideas and notions around it. This unit helps you begin to unpack all of those ideas and opinions, evaluate them, and make decisions for yourself, and be able to evaluate fact from fiction, because there's an enormous amount of that out there. There's also, excuse me, some of the special interest units, I call them, around science of gardening and backyard biodiversity, gives you the skills to be a better gardener, understand the underlying science so that you can make better decisions around how you undertake that kind of activity, how you might be able to contribute to biodiversity in your own backyard. So this is very much about having a local impact or acting locally, and for a much bigger global impact. SAS 118 sustainability is purely about enabling and developing an understanding around the transformations, the societal or the economic and societal transformations that are going to be necessary to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And whilst the Sustainable Development Goals are this enormous overarching global scale guidelines, we really look at how we can implement those sort of transformations at a local household level or community level. So it's really about trying to mainstream sustainability.
Great, thank you, Bridget. That was really, really good. Thank you.
I just wanted to jump in there. So obviously, you will be learning practical skills in these certificates, but they are all online. They're all fully online. So with the, for example, the equipment design, it would be if you moved into the associate degree, that's when you would actually have those face-to-face classes where you're actually learning how to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, learning how to use laser cutters and those types of equipment. But the 6 months, the certificate is all fully online.
Yeah, so we've had to be a bit flexible in relation to the current climate, but I think that the beauty of modern technology and modern equipment that you use is you can do it by distance. So at present, our students do a lot of the design work at home, and then they can have access virtually to the things like the laser cutter and the 3D printer, and they can print those out in real time, and which is great. I mean, it's been a challenge, but we've also learned a lot about this type of manufacturing in the process. So yeah, it can all be done from wherever, really. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
So I've had Rachel come through with a couple of different questions. Thank you, Rachel. So Rachel said, hi, I have applied for the Diploma of Sustainable Living, online processing 1 to 3 weeks. Would we know the application outcome before semester 2? Yeah, so the idea is that you would know whether you've been accepted into the program before the July start date. So is this one a term start date or a semester start date? I can't remember for to say it's
a semester.
Yeah, so around you'll know before about the 13th of July is the start date for the course. Bridget, this one's addressed to you from Rachel. I am doing interior design in Melbourne and want to start business with focus on sustainability. Does the course have subjects that focus on indoor-outdoor sustainability? I see there is one on sustainable building.
Yeah, yes, there is. So Introduction to Sustainable Design for Housing is an excellent unit. I think if you're looking at indoor-outdoor design, there is a suite of units there that are going to be really helpful for you. Backyard biodiversity, Introduction to Sustainable Design for Housing, Science of Gardening, any of these units are going to contribute to your goal of incorporating that into your business model. So, and there are plenty of others. There's a unit there on energy, and I'd also note that for the certificate, there is, we've obviously got Introduction to Sustainable Design for Housing. If you decide then to go on to the diploma, there is a follow-on unit from that, which is Introduction to Sustainable Design for Housing and Landscape. So there's also some climate change units in the diploma. Again, these are really focused on how you can contribute. So they're very much foundation level units, and they're very focused on the kinds of contributions that you can make as an individual. While I'm saying that, it's really important that when you're selecting your units, go to the course and unit handbook and have a look at the unit description. Some of these units are really theoretical, okay? So there's a couple here that are focused really on philosophy and ethics, which is really important to sustainability, but it might not be what you're after, Rachel, for example. So yeah, take a really, really close look at the unit descriptors and make sure that these are the units that you're actually interested in, because there is a huge range there to choose from.
Thank you again, Bridget. That was a great answer again. Rachel's got another question. Are the courses mostly online individual or group work? I guess it might be different for each of your courses, whether it's, so yeah, I'll let you all answer that one.
Yeah, so there for sustainable living, it's taught across a number of different colleges, and they will have different approaches. All of the units in there are online. Some of the units have things like weekly tutorials. I know that developing a creative and entrepreneurial potential requires that you work in groups in an online environment. And then there are other units involved in there where there aren't any tutorials. It is all online and self-guided activities. So again, have a look at the course and unit handbook, and you should be able to see from that what the teaching, it's called the teaching pattern, that's usually on the handbook. Have a look at that and see what's involved.
Sorry. So the next one is from Julie. So what aspects of the undergraduate degree in science equipment can you use for being job ready, especially in the fermentation specialisation?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Julie. It's a really good one. So with this undergraduate certificate in science, we're looking directly into some of the units relate directly to the fermentation industry. So we'll be looking at regulatory challenges. That unit in particular talks about the regulation that fermentation businesses really need to get their head around. So things like health, food safety, the risks involved, the different government bodies that you would have to apply for permits for. And well, you don't need to know it differs between different states and the type of business that you have or you're working in. It allows you to get a good understanding of the type of regulation that is involved in the fermentation industry. The other aspect is the applied chemistry. So fermentation is a chemical reaction. And so that unit in particular talks about chemistry and how it directly relates to fermentation. And it allows you to understand the underlying scientific principles that are happening. But also when you get into doing your own fermentations, it also allows you to make decisions, solve problems, because you understand the science that's happening within the fermentation process. So those two units in particular are directly related to fermentation and give you some really good skills that will get you, that'll equip you when you go into the fermentation industry, or if you're already in that industry, can help you have a little bit more knowledge about the industry that you're in or wanting to go into. The other skills we do in the Introduction to Industry unit that is compulsory for this certificate really talk about, really transferable skills across a number of different industries around communication, around leadership, some decision making, but really coming up with innovative approaches to solving some problems as well. And in this unit, you get to hear from people who are leaders in the Tasmanian science industries and in the fermentation industry, and hear what they're actually looking for people. And then, of course, in the second term for the certificate is the sustainability unit, and we've heard from Bridget as well, because that is the same unit across both of these courses. It is absolutely fundamental to science industries to become sustainable and be more sustainable and help us with being innovative in our approaches. And so that unit really does prepare students with some of those skills.
Great, thank you very much. So I think that's all the questions at the moment. We're happy to just wait a couple more minutes, but otherwise I've put up the details for getting in contact with the university up on the screen. So you can email us there or call us on that number. And if there are specific questions about any of the courses, we will direct those inquiries to Mark, Robin, or Bridget. You're welcome, Rachel.
Right, I think it's 10:04, so we might wrap up now. It looks like there are no more questions. Oh, right, here we go. What have we got here? The link for the undergraduate certificate in sustainable living doesn't work on the website. Do you have the link there, Andrew? I might have a look at that. Can you just share the particular link you're talking about, and I'll have a look at that. All right, so I might stop recording now because it looks like we don't have any more questions here, but